Hello, everybody. My name is Clarence Napier, the insurance broker, licensed in 12 states, which include Alabama, South Carolina, Florida, Georgia, Texas, Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Washington State, and California. Today is August 1st, 2025, and I just want to let people know that I'm also the president at 321 Biz Development, 321 Business Development, which will be an LLC in the state of Georgia. And today, I want to talk about something that I've seen once again. And again, I'm sitting back in the sort of like in the back seat of this sales interview, this sales transaction in a tech company. And this is the second time that I've seen some stuff that I don't think should have happened. And I think it is because the company, been in business for a while, did not have a good sales system. Now, when I say I've seen this before, I think I've told the story on multiple podcast episodes that when I worked in corporate America, I was a new hire into the sales department. And because another person quit and transferred to a competitor, I had to start working in Los Angeles. So when Oscar, that's the employee that quit, the sales executive, account executive that went to work for a competitor, when he left, I was assigned a lot of the Los Angeles, Ventura County customers. And we're talking about the health insurance business, working with a company that provides employee benefits. And so when Oscar quit, my boss said, "Hey, Clarence, get on the plane from San Francisco and go down and hang out in LA for a few days and introduce yourself to some of our clients that Oscar had." So I did. Took a lot of business cards, a lot of brochures, and some cups and pens and things like that, and introduced myself to about 15 of the customers that were now my customers. So fast forward, I was in Ventura County, just finishing up with a current customer, and drove past a big employer. And so I said, okay, well, this employer is not our client. Let me drop some information off so I can see if this employer could be our new client. So I did. Wasn't able to speak with the benefits officer, the person who makes decisions for employee benefits. But I left my information, business card, packet. 3 weeks later, the company that I visited in Ventura County called and said they would like to meet. So 2 weeks later, the vice president located in Northern California, myself, met with the Southern California team. And the Southern California team was, I was told, the A team. You're talking Huntington Beach, Irvine, Long Beach, Orange County. San Juan Capistrano, all those, Anaheim, all those cities, popular cities with big companies. So I sat back at the appointment. So we all met in Ventura County. I sat back at the appointment and kind of observed. Long story short, the A team did not close. So I was like, okay, well, at least I got a chance to see what the A team does. But they couldn't close. So I got back on the plane. My boss, Michelle, the vice president, said, "Clarence, since you introduced yourself to this company and you made first contact, why don't you call and see if you can have a follow-up, just to see if it's still a chance that this company of 12,000 employees can be our next client." So I said, okay, now I need to let you know I had just finished a 8-day training with Miller Hyman, which is now Korn Ferry with a K, kornferry.com. And that was like $12,000 that the corporation spent for me to go to this class. And so I remembered some things from the class, and I said, let me use it. Trying to figure out how come the Huntington Beach people didn't know it. They allegedly went to the same class a few years ago. Sometimes if you don't use what you learn and you want to wing it, you don't end up with good results. So I went back to Ventura County, got on the plane, flew into Burbank, got on the 101 North, exited, South Victoria Avenue. So those in Ventura County, you know where I'm talking about. Exited, went to the building, introduced myself, and started asking Barbara some questions. Barbara was the benefit officer we met with before. So I had a list of questions, and this is from what I learned in the 8-day corporate selling class. Fast forward, 45 minutes later, Barbara said, "Clarence, have you been to lunch?" I said, "No, I haven't been to lunch." She says, "Well, I'll be right back." So 45 minutes passed. I thought Barbara had basically said, "Well, see your way to the door, young man," because she's not coming back. She's not interested. That's what I was thinking. Barbara finally came back, and Barbara gave me a folder. And inside the folder was a check for $500,000 for 2 months and some change of healthcare coverage. And so I asked Barbara, I said, "Well, what was different from the first appointment with the vice president of a Fortune 500 company and the A team from Huntington Beach?" Barbara said, "Well, Clarence, you asked me more questions about our current situation of what we were dealing with the current insurance carrier for our employees. And the A team didn't. The A team bragged about how great the company is, and how long they've been in business, and why our plans are so fantastic. But no one had ever asked Barbara what was the current situation, what were the employees dealing with, what were some of the county administrators dealing with at the hospitals, at the doctor's offices, none of that stuff." So that told me right there that you have to have a good sales system where you get to know your potential client. Because otherwise, why should they do business with you if you're just spewing out how great you are? So fast forward to a month ago in Atlanta. Not to mention any names, but I got a good friend that owns a tech company, and I do have a tech background from the military, like a strong tech background. So the information or the process that he was doing was not totally unfamiliar, but it was about 90% unfamiliar. So I was able, just to fast forward, I was able to get the appointment. And when I got the appointment, the appointment went down. I wasn't the main speaker because I don't know a lot about the technology. I know about it, but I don't know it in depth. And we're talking about chips, AI chips, handlers to move chips along a certain process for later use, somewhere down the production line. So we ended up having a second meeting to talk about our results and to do a demo. And that's when I found out that the team at this tech company based in Silicon Valley does not have a sales system. And frankly, I probably wouldn't have purchased the product myself if I was the prospect. So needless to say, I'm working with my friend's company to help them with a great sales system. One that asks enough questions, because we had a chance to ask a bunch of questions, but we didn't. We didn't know about the prospect's concerns until we did the demo, and the demo pretty much exposed all the questions that we should have asked. So now the company is begging for the business. And you shouldn't have to beg for the business. I mean, the purpose of a sales system is to have a predictable outcome. Like 80% is the standard predictable outcome when you have a good sales system. Shouldn't have to, beat around the bush and beg for the business. So I just want to let people know, yours truly, I have experienced something that I hadn't experienced in about 15 years when I was in corporate America. And some of you listening are also going through this same type of challenge where you're meeting with the prospect at the closing table and you're not able to close because somebody effed up. My name is Clarence Napier, phone number 866-901-9876. We do have an online networking session that meets 4 times a week, twice on Monday, twice on on Wednesdays, 7:30 a.m. Eastern, 7:30 a.m. Pacific. And then we have a 15-minute session where we talk about sales tips. And I tell you one thing, this one here that I'm talking about today is a real life issue. The good news though, since I do have some tech experience, I can move forward with my friend's company to make sure we minimize this disastrous result. And we're still in the game for the sale. It's just now we are exposed, even though we have a tremendous, fascinating, powerful tech product. We just don't freaking know how to sell it. Anyway, take care. Have a great day.